Life is complex, so is our mental health. It cannot be understood by diagnosis alone. Our philosophy is treat the person, not the mental illness. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Humanizing Mental Health. I'm Trent Nakers.
And I'm Jeremy Alcorn.
And today we have a long-awaited returning guest. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the wonderful Amy Alcorn with us.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah. On this beautiful fall day as we're recording. Yeah. And, you know, Jer, I'm looking out my window and I'm wondering, you know, if my shades were up, what would you be seeing right now?
Well, that is a matter of perspective.
You're absolutely right.
So in today's episode, to kind of talk about how we even came to this, there was a couple things we were batting around, and something that had really jumped out at me that represented a cognitive distortion. Now, people use different words for that, and I think it'll probably be part of our conversation. It's just I was thinking about when in our world there's so much disagreement and conflict because people don't hold the same perspective. And there's this big push right now to say, you get to feel what you feel. And that is true. It's an important step. At the same time, people start coming from a position that their feelings give them the right to be right.
Yeah, like you said, facts are, our feelings are facts.
Yeah, that's the distortion. The distortion is this idea that because I feel a certain way, it's true. And I have to be really, really clear. I think that what has happened with this is this has been weaponized actually against certain groups of people, particularly the LGBTQ plus community. And that's actually not what we're talking about. We're not talking about a difference between biological sex and gender. I was speaking more about interpersonal conflicts where someone comes into a situation, and this is what I would say is the summary. My feelings are valid does not mean I am right and you are wrong, because your feelings are also valid. Feelings are feelings; they're not facts.
Yeah, like what I would say is that feelings are your own internal truth. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And from that perspective, it means that we'd be moving to a philosophical position of challenging the idea of ultimate truth.
Yeah, and I don't know. I almost look at this, and I'm like, as we kind of talk about this, you know, what pops into my head is sort of a murder mystery, where, you know, because like every character comes at things from a different angle, and depending upon what character's perspective you take, one person can look like the murderer or the villain or not. And then once you combine everybody's perspective and eliminate different things, or maybe see where they may be misperceiving things, that's when the whole perspective comes into play. Yeah, because I can see you smiling, because it seems like that resonates with you. What about you, Aim?
Where to begin? I guess as you guys are talking, it reminded me of some things that I've been learning in my social work classes. And one of the things that we learned about was research paradigms. So basically how one sees the world and how they view knowledge and how they can be able to understand what is real and how they can measure it. And there's many different types of paradigms out there. There's kind of people who see truth as one set thing. There's other people who might see truth as, well, you can't really understand truth. Everybody has their own type of truth. There's some people who might understand truth as a more societal type of thing. People create whatever is true through culture. That's kind of more of the social work take of it, as I understand at least.
Yeah.
Power is created through society, and those in power are the ones who hold what is hypothetically true.
Yeah.
At least according
Sure.
to many social work perspectives.
Yeah, like for example, in a combat or war situation, the winners get to write history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then, when was it the last time that the bad guys won a war? Seems like never.
Yeah. Well, and that's the old thing is that what is good, what is bad. What was it? I always think about, the villain of a comic book story doesn't see himself as the villain. He just sees himself as a misunderstood hero.
Yeah, often, correct? Yeah. So that position around perspective. Now, the therapeutic model that this comes out of cognitive therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy actually does hold that there is more functional ways of seeing things, and that is a distortion that causes the intensity of the problem. So they would say that it is not the events that happen to you in your life. They would say it is your understanding of those events that causes the struggle in your life. And I think that there is some validity to what they're saying.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, and I want to preface that by saying, because sometimes people with cognitive distortions will look at them as like they're all bad. But if you actually go through and you read Dr. David Burns' book, where he talks about cognitive distortions, he will even mention the fact that you can't really see it in an absolutist lens as all good or all bad, because at one point those were functional for you. So to have like a black and white thinking in certain cases, if you look at it from a survival perspective, to be able to identify that and react, could at one point have saved your life. It's just when you're going into a non-threatening situation and utilizing that lens that it then becomes maladaptive.
Yeah, I had the privilege of being able to go to a training with him for a couple of days. And one of the things that he said is, in terms of understanding what is happening for a person, you need to understand, what is this doing for them? Too much of the field comes from a place of the dysfunction and from a place of pathology. He's like, but actually, what is it doing for them? One of the ways that you could tease this apart is a strategy that he uses. I think I adapted it a little bit. It's like, I go, okay, so I've got this glass and I'm going to pour it full of potion. And I'm going to hand you the potion, and all you need to do is drink the potion, and your anxiety's gone. Will you drink the potion? And when people hesitate, and when they say no, then the question becomes, all right, then, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to, in this therapy, we're not going to remove this from you. I'm just wondering, actually, what is it that it's doing for you? How is this in some way serving you? Yeah,
I mean, and like when, just because I come at things a lot of times from an IFS perspective, that almost to me talks about like a part that that you don't want to give up, that at one point again was functional.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to stare at you, Amy, but I can see your wheels turning, my dear. So
and just waiting, because we just keep filling the space.
Yeah.
You are the professionals. So
Okay, but there again too, because we're professionals, what makes our perspective more valid than yours, other than the pieces of paper that we have?
Right.
The pieces of paper you have.
Other than
so in other words, not much. A piece of paper is kind of flimsy.
Well, yeah. Well, that's why
That
I have
is
mine.
an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
I don't have my degrees on my wall anywhere. I'm not saying it's good or bad that you do that. It's just that I didn't have them on my wall for a long time because I didn't feel I deserved them. Once again, probably fits in this topic.
That imposter syndrome.
Yeah, this smoke and mirrors. I must have fooled somebody. But then over time, I no longer had them on my walls because I didn't feel like I needed to. I don't need that to be on my wall to indicate what I've accomplished.
I did have a thought though, as you're talking about how a lot of things are pathologized
Mm-hmm.
in our society. It actually reminded me of when I was listening to Harry Potter and they
Mm-hmm.
go to St. Mungo's, which is the magical like hospital
Yeah.
for like injuries or
And
whatever.
maladies. Yeah.
And Harry's like, oh, like, where are your doctors? And Ron's like, doctors? You mean the people that, like, the muggles that cut up people? No, we have healers. And that's supposed to be, like, a funny line, but I actually found it pretty cool, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, dang, like, doctors are supposed to be, like, healers, but it really does feel like in our society that they're just the people who, like, cut up people. Like, what if we had healers, like, not just to cut you up, but also to not just heal you physically, but to heal you, like, emotionally and spiritually, like how there have been so many healers in other types of cultures in the past. Why don't we have that today?
Sure.
Where did we go wrong? How did we lose that?
Sure. And I'm not sure we lost it entirely. Like, for example, even in your own experience recently, in your experience with the specialist that you saw, would you call that person a healer?
I think so.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a really interesting question. Is that what is the definition of a healer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but tracking back to that core point that we're coming from, so there's a multitude of different kinds of cognitive distortions. But saying that, I also want to get a read on this particular theoretical position. There's actually several other there's whatever, I don't even know how many now, 500 different theoretical frameworks that are out there for psychotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
And in some of the other modalities, how do they refer to this same kind of construct or concept?
Yeah, so I mean, in IFS, you would refer to it as parts, and you may think of them as cognitive schemas, things like that. Those are the ones that I typically use.
Yeah, there was also a statement you made about thinking trap, I think is what you said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was one that my current practicum student was utilizing, was thinking trap, which I actually kind of like that, because I almost think that it's almost like you're walking along and you get stuck in like a hole, and that it's almost like the idea of, now how do we get out of a hole? And from one perspective, you could say to yourself, you know, when I'm stuck in a hole, it's completely insurmountable. But if you have somebody to help you recognize that you're in a hole and help you guide yourself out of it, you know, that can be a way of getting out of that trap.
Mm-hmm. And from a theory that predates cognitive therapy, from Dr. Albert Ellis, he talks about them as irrational thoughts.
Yeah.
And the notion that an event happens, it goes through a belief system that you have, which then has an output of an emotional state, which is very, very similar, kind of almost cutting hairs here when we're talking about the differences. So coming back to the very first one that we identified, I think it's useful, and we'll probably have a follow-up conversation about how, in a future episode, about how this relates to people setting up boundaries. And we'll jump off of that in another episode. But the first one we talked about, feelings are not facts, is actually called emotional reasoning. And in looking at our way to get through this, we realize the emotion is here for a reason. We're not trying to banish it. Mm-hmm. It's trying to inform us. So what is it that it's trying to tell me so that I can act on it? So if that emotion is fear, then it's trying to tell me that something is dangerous. Now, simply rather than assuming that it is dangerous, then we actually try to examine what we see as dangerous to try to get us out of that trap.
Absolutely. I mean, going back to the cognitive behavioral model, is really going back to the ABC perspective of the thing. You know, it's the activating event, it's the behavior, and then it's the consequence. So we look at, okay, like, what is our behavior, how are we acting, but then what are the other things that are maybe contributing to it?
Absolutely. So one that I really like to use is Amy. Imagine that you're in high school again. I'm sorry. It's a terrible place to put you, but imagine that you're in high school again. You're walking down the hallway. You see a group of people that are all talking, and you know several of them in the group. You walk up to the group. They all of a sudden go silent. Now, what is it that you're gonna potentially think happened there?
I think it depends on like what the group is. Like if it's a group of people that have been mean to me in the past, I'd probably think, oh no, they were talking about me,
Sure.
but they were saying something bad about me. But if it was my friends, I might think, oh, they were talking about me, but maybe like they don't want me to know yet because maybe it's a surprise party.
Sure. So you're showing some signs of already actually examining the evidence, which is the flexibility. That first statement that you said, that is like, oh, they were talking about me, and so we go, all right. And what kind of emotion would you feel in that event?
It would depend on which group it was.
So they were talking about me, and it was something bad. Was the automatic negative thought.
Well, I'd feel pretty awkward and maybe bad about myself or frustrated.
Sure. So the very first distortion there is jumping to conclusions. I don't actually know what happened. I'm jumping to this conclusion. There is a possible, position in which that may be reasonable, but I actually don't know. Now, you feel those feelings that you're feeling. Now, the second possible distortion that could happen to you is because I feel this way, it is true. Because what that gets in the way of is you actually finding out what happened. Like, what is the way out of this distortion? What do you see as a way out of this distortion?
I'm not sure.
Sure. And what do you think, Trent? What's a way you could see out of this distortion?
Well, I mean, maybe it's really the biggest, bluntest one there. It's kind of literally just saying, hey guys, what were you talking about?
But people might not always be truthful.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a fascinating thing, though, because either way, it actually gives you evidence. Mm-hmm. So if someone is just relaxed and they're like, oh, so-and-so just told a joke, but if all of a sudden there's like a dead silence and an awkwardness, then you have a pretty good answer. The one leads you to a place of being able to go, okay, yeah, I don't need to feel this way anymore because it was inaccurate. And you actually just let it go that quickly. The other one leads you to a place of, oh, I was correct. Now that's a different thing altogether, because you can't rationalize yourself out of those feelings now. Those feelings are real feelings, and we're going to have to process them in a different way. We can't just change our thoughts about.
Maybe it's just me, but if I'm in that moment and people are starting to shift around, it's kind of like, it's kind of like I would feel anxious, but then too, it's like, okay, leading me to a sense of curiosity, like, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe even not in that moment, but another time, talking to somebody that seems like, this is a good friend of mine, and maybe being able to have a conversation with them. An apology or some kind of reconciliation point may be your process through that interpersonal.
Something else that I want to add is when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about it in the context of I already know these people. Because that's what you mentioned, is I already know them.
At least
if
some
I
of them.
didn't know them, maybe my reaction would be different, because I'd have nothing to go off of other than my experience with other people in the past. And something interesting that I learned in one of my classes is that emotions aren't about right now. Emotions are about what you've learned in the past, and they're guiding you to anticipate what's going to happen in the future, usually the near future, when it comes to being anxious.
Right there. And I mean, you gave a beautiful basically definition of what a cognitive schema is.
Yes, exactly.
I always feel like if you've never been on a date before, you go through a date, you have an idea of what's going on. You go for your second date or your first date, it's like, okay, now I know what's expected of me. If you're the guy, it's like, okay, I got to pull out the chair for the girl's going to sit down, we're going to have a certain type of conversation, maybe things will be going good, maybe things will be going bad. If you have a really bad first date, there's going to be a part of you that's going to expect things to go wrong, possibly, and be looking for that evidence when it's going to be steering terribly.
Right, exactly. So if you in a first date think I ought to be a gentleman and I ought to pull her chair out, and she looks at you like, hey, you know what? I'm not some kind of fragile doll. I can pull out my own chair. And she makes some kind of comment about that. Well, then that will, influence the next state and going, oh, you know what? Maybe that's not what people are looking for. Unfortunately, it's not what that person was looking for. It doesn't mean that other people actually think and feel in the same way. And so it's without a broad set of experience, then we don't have a rounded belief set or cognitive schema to help us guide us through things.
Yeah, and it almost makes me think in some ways, like what you were mentioning, Amy, cultural context really does inform what cognitive distortions are, because in some ways what we would be considered to be a rational or normal way of thinking within our Western context may almost be considered maladaptive thinking in other contexts.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Also, I realized that I said something incorrect. I said that usually it helps with near future things, but you can actually, it can be any future things. It could be like far in the future. Anxiety works, it works with any type of future, near future, far future,
sure,
all the future.
Yeah, and then the more similar experiences that we have, the stronger that those get.
Yeah.
Like we need to actually have some experiences that challenge what we currently believe. In my own life, I was very, very afraid of public speaking, and that's actually a common thing. But then I spent 2 years as a missionary where I spoke in front of crowds of 3, 4, sometimes even 1,000 people. And I had to do so almost on a monthly basis. And when the outcome was positive, when positive feedback came back, it really challenged this idea that I'm going to look stupid, that I'm not going to know what I'm talking about, that all of these things that sit in the background. And so then now it's no big deal. I stand up and speak in front of people easily.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious when you did that, because one thing that I've noticed with some people or with some professionals, when they speak or when they go up on crowds and they feel anxious, they literally invite their anxiety up on stage with them. Did you ever do that?
No. In fact, I'm curious of what you mean.
So, like, if you're feeling like anxious, rather than pushing away that anxiety, you think, okay, anxiety, come with me as I come up on stage and just be with me. And when you want to leave, you can leave.
I see. So as an internal process.
Yes.
That's
they
cool.
They didn't go up to the front and say, I am horribly anxious about speaking in front of you. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to bring anxiety, throw their arm up
People
as
say
around
that all
their
the
shoulder.
time at church.
Yeah.
People will be like, man, I don't know why I'm so anxious. And the crowd might kind of give a bit of a giggle, because we all know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Because at church, everyone is asked to speak at one time or another.
Yeah. In the church that we go to.
In the church that we go
Yeah.
to.
Like it would be a very odd thing for a lot of people. Like, what are you talking about? Like
Yeah.
only a minister that's been through training gets to speak in front of people.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how that feels as a lay
Cultural
clergy.
stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys basically went to religious Toastmasters.
Religious Toastmasters. Yeah.
Sorry, that's just all I could think of, for my own personal context.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking, though, Trent, when you said that people invite their anxiety onto the stage with them. I was thinking about emotions again in my class, and how they were talking about how emotions are not there for your detriment, or at least with stress. It's not there for your detriment, but it's there to be a positive thing.
Self-protective.
Yes.
Of course, not like stress over a really long, prolonged period of time, but like stress in the moment. When you get onto a stage and you're stressed and you're anxious, well, that could be the same physical signs of being excited, increased heart rate. Maybe you're like sweating a bit. So instead of thinking, man, I'm so anxious, think, man, I'm so pumped up and excited to do whatever I'm about to do, because my body is getting prepared to do what it needs to do.
Amy, that was absolutely beautiful. I mean, that was almost like a perfect therapeutic technique. You are definitely your father's daughter.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's all about like reinterpreting those body signals and like really asking yourself, again, like, what is the evidence? And even if there is some evidence one way or the other way, what is the most adaptive thing for me to do with this evidence in the moment?
Yeah. So I have a couple thoughts. One of them is, as you describe that, in terms of anxiety versus excitement, the example I would use is, if it is, in the 1990s and it's the NBA final game and there's 10 seconds left and your team is down by 1 point, and then you pass the ball to Michael Jordan, he's going to make the shot. In that moment, the intensity actually takes him to another level. And if you pass the ball to Jeremy Alcorn, he's going to vomit on the floor.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong, though, but what you're really talking about is you're talking about flow state.
Yeah, for sure. And it really is this position that Amy just described that is a matter of that perspective that is taken, and that the body and the cognition, how are they lined up? Michael Jordan is saying to himself, "Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. It's going in, it's going in."
Yeah.
Jeremy Alcorn is saying, "Don't give me that ball. I don't want to disappoint everyone on my team and hundreds of thousands of fans."
That reminds me of, it was actually a post I saw on Facebook that said, regulated does not always mean that you're just calm and relaxed. Regulated means that your body is reacting in whatever the way it needs to according to the situation.
Yeah. Sure. Like, because if there's another type of situation in which there is danger, and it doesn't have to do with me disappointing people, there's been many dangerous situations that I just get into that zone or that flow state.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that I am not going to be hurt or injured, that I can manage the situation.
Yeah, and like this almost makes me think about the fact that we look at hyper-aroused and hypo-aroused as negative states. But at one point, those are, it is appropriate to get angry. It is appropriate to get, and we also have to ask ourselves, with our old friend Descartes, because I feel like we've almost been dancing around his quote, "I think, therefore I am."
Yeah, for sure. That is the foundation of our philosophy and our society, is that Descartes split the body and the mind. And really, we've been talking about what it looks like to have an integrated cognition and emotion state. Absolutely. The reason that I don't feel a ton of risk in dangerous situations is because that I have managed them in the past. It comes all the way back to what you said before. When you're in a situation and you have this background to know what do I do, then I'm not afraid.
Absolutely. I mean, like, a little bit of storytelling here for myself, which maybe I've brought this up on the podcast before, but my first experience, like, doing counseling with people was absolutely horrible. And I don't mean like that. This was not like I was sitting down with a client. I was sitting down with a classmate. Like, we had just learned basic active listening skills and like your basic limits of confidentiality. And they're like, "Okay, do your base interview, go." And I'm like, "What? Whoa. And yeah, the person I was sitting with was, "Okay, well, I feel comfortable talking about my divorce, so let's talk about that." And I'm like, "Whoa, wait, no. Like, can I have 10 more hours of like actually figuring this out?" So that was my experience with counseling. So every single time as I've been going into counseling, I've had to have more positive experiences, build that up in my head, and to negate that one negative one that was so powerful.
Yeah. Just when you said your first experience, it reminded me of my first experience working with you, Trent, getting the door locked.
Oh, yeah.
I had the wrong key. For some reason, I was able to get in initially. Then we left.
Which is kind of scary, actually, that the wrong key worked.
In the middle, the right key wasn't there. Then we left, and it was in January. So Trent just thought
of the frozen
that the door
north.
was frozen shut. So we went to get like this defreezing stuff,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
didn't work. Then
And
your
then-
brother had to come with a blowtorch.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sorry, getting off track.
You know what? No, that's totally on track.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah. And
welcome to Canada. Bienvenue.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And the thing is that, like, for those of you that have seen my picture, like, you know, my brother and I don't really look similar. Like, my brother comes over and he's a rigger, so he's a big dude. Like, he's rather friendly when you get to know him, but when he gets ticked off, like, he's doing explicatives left, right, and center, coming over with his big blowtorch, and here's Amy at 19 years old going, what have I done? Who am I working with? You know,
Pretty sure it's 18. You
Are
know,
you-
just barely spring chicken, first job.
Yeah.
First day of the job.
Yeah,
Like, I mess up so bad we can't even open the door.
Yeah.
Like, and the thing is, in our location, wasn't it like minus 30 Celsius that day or something? Minus
It
26.
wasn't that
Mom,
cold.
It was cold
But it was
though.
cold enough.
Yeah. And I'm just imagining Sheldon, and I mean, I'm not disparaging him. Like, here he comes in, you know, blankety blank this, blankety blank that, and just
With the blowtorch.
Yeah. I'm just,
It's like, why won't this door open?
yeah. I'm wearing. He's like literally almost melting like the paint off the lock, and I'm just imagining. I could just hear, and like you were nervous, but then I was imagining for myself the call from you, Jeremy, where it's like, what have you exposed my daughter to?
And the thing is, it wasn't an irrational thought that the door would be froze. Like, a lot of people, listeners out there, you know, that aren't from around this area may go, what? Door frozen? That doesn't happen. Actually, this is Canada.
Yeah. Hey.
Anything could happen here.
Take off. And then it's not abnormal for, you know, people to have blowtorches.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, we don't have a blowtorch, but
Yeah, but you know, I come from a very rural family, so you know
that's fair.
yeah. So, kind of, I guess, pulling things together and thinking, you know, in terms of this conversation, what has stood out for you guys, and I'll give my reflection as well.
You know what I was thinking of was when you said that, like, our society is split between the mind and the body, when that's incorrect. It's all the same thing. That kind of brought me back to when I was talking about, like, doctors versus healers. Like, I wish that the medical part of our society would recognize that our minds and bodies are the same thing. Some doctors do. But it just reminds me of when I was living in the States and, like, going through all this stomach problems, and the doctor was like, oh, well, you might have all these weird allergies. You need to do this weird allergy test that's going to cost you hundreds of dollars. That's, like, this super, like, pseudoscience thing. And I'm just sitting there like, I have celiac disease, and I'm working a super stressful job. Like, I knew what was causing my stomach aches. Like, it was my stressful job. But, like, as I went through more and more testing through, like, actual scientific means, colonoscopy and all that, like, they're like, yeah, you have Crohn's. And that makes sense to me, because when you have a condition like that, if you go through a lot of stress, then your body will
Become inflammatory.
yeah, it will become inflamed. So that was kind of my thoughts, was that everything is connected, and your thoughts are connected to your body, and your body's connected to your thoughts, because it's all one thing.
What really stood out to me is how, or really reminded me is that how our cognitive distortions or our cognitive schemas really aren't set, that how they can grow and change over time. And I wanted to say, like, even, you know, like, as you sit here and talk to us, if I reflect back over some of the podcasts that you've been on with us before, and how much you've grown and changed in terms of your confidence and willingness to engage with us, that can really show how a person can really adapt and really empower themselves in the moment. It's just about willingness to engage with those cognitive schemas.
Yeah, and for me, the big thing that's jumping out is that while we really the theme of this is really about perceptions, and really comes to those cognitive schemas and so forth, that in our conversation that we have here, we also are recognizing that top-down approach, where we're coming from cognition first, actually our conversation, I think, has a theme of limitations to that we do need to look at our thoughts, and it's a very helpful thing, but also that position that it could be from the bottom up, that actually this could be a feelings first experience. Either way, you need to get your feelings and your cognition to actually line up together, or else you'll be in a place in which those feelings will become louder and louder until they're actually felt heard, and that you can have that alignment back up between your cognition and your feelings. And if you don't, then eventually you'll possibly will become sick.
Absolutely.
For sure. Okay, sorry, this is a bit off track, but that reminds me of the movie we're watching, Ordinary People.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When the main character says that, like, it just takes so much energy to get angry, and the therapist says, well, doesn't it take more energy to hold it back, or to hold it in?
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And I was like, dang, that's like such a good quote.
Yeah, and then the one, of course, from that movie that you brought up, Trent, and posted was, if you can't feel pain, you can't feel anything.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, on that note, I'm Jeremy Alcorn.
I'm Trent Nakers. See you next time.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that this message has been as meaningful to you as it has been to us. If you're looking for help, you can find us on Facebook at Humanizing Mental Health.